make it go quiet because otherwise we're going to hear feedback from the live streaming. So just give me a minute to get that going. And people are still trickling in. All right.
Just FYI, the link that was sent out today actually goes to registration and it says registration closed. So you might want to resend the correct link.
Oh, that is, so I'm not really sure. Gosh, all right. So there's like 150 people who don't know how to get in here because of that. So let me get started with something and then I'll figure out how to resend that. Mia, do you have the slides open?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because I'm getting phone calls, I think, with people who are having problems with the link. You all should have just saved it when it came first time.
I just sent the bit.ly for the slides as well. So maybe it's going to work better that way, guys. So
no, but let's just, if you could share the screen from your side, from
sure.
the first slide, because I need to send the email with the
gotcha.
So I can't share my screen and do that at the same time. All right, thank you so much.
Here we go.
All right, and yeah, and actually thanks for sharing the bit.ly. And then the first thing is the how are you feeling? So let's just move on to the how are you feeling, and then I'll go send the link while people do that. So Anna, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? And then I'll introduce myself. And we're asking people to do the Sleepless in Seattle, which is use the chat to say, how are you feeling and where are you at the same time? But Anna's going to introduce herself right now. Remember to unmute, Anna. Remember to unmute. I think you've got problem with that.
Hi, I'm Anna Mills, and I teach English and writing at College of Marin and City College of San Francisco in California, and I'm very excited to be here. I've developed a resource list on AI in relation to writing in higher education, and I have an open textbook as well. So I'm still learning and just excited to share and discuss with everyone.
Thanks, Anna. And I'm Maha from the American University in Cairo. I work as a faculty developer in the Center for Learning and Teaching. And and I'm excited to work with Anna with you guys today. So I have a point. I sent the Zoom ID and passcode. So even if the link doesn't work, people should be able to manage with that, no?
You know, even when I put in the ID and passcode, it asked me to register again. So
okay, so I'm going to unrequire registration. I guess that's probably the only thing that's going to work at this point. So this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and then the original link should work because it's going to have failed. The link in my Google Calendar is working. That's how I got in.
But if people didn't save that, then they won't be able to get in. But 140 something people managed to get in. So I don't know.
You can't share that link, or is it unique for
I did. I shared the link and I shared the passcode and the personal ID and the number of the passcode.
My sound went away again.
So if that's not working for folks, then I don't know. But people are calling me, but I can't just answer the phone in the middle of the session. So I'm just we're recording and we're live streaming. So
does the license have maximum number of limits?
Yeah, of course. It has a limit of 300 and there are 300 people registered.
Okay.
So I can't do anything about this. So let's just move on with the session because y'all are here and we'll send everyone else a recording, I guess. Or they can find the old email that has the original link. That's the only thing I can think of right now, unfortunately. All right, let's get started. So Mia, could you share the screen again, please? Oh, no, wait, you can't. I have to do it. Sorry, you guys. I have to do it because I'm using Slido. All right.
Right, okay. Just let me know when you want it again.
Okay. So normally I want to take a look at what you guys have been writing about how you're feeling. I'm taking a quick look right now.
There's been so many wonderful responses, but
can you read a few? Read a couple. We won't be able to read them all.
There's some people who feel angsty, and Austin is one that just came through. I like that one. But yeah, people are feeling a lot of different emotions. Some people are feeling overwhelmed. Some people are feeling excited. There's a lot of curiosity in the room. Existentialism came up. And people are in cold and drizzly atmospheres and rainy atmospheres, as well as happiness in London, etc. Sleepy but happy in Philly. So that's just a little touch of what's back, back there, Maha.
All right, thank you. All right, so Anna and I thought before we start to just make a few community agreements with you all. And the first one is we're all learning. Anna and I were talking about this yesterday. Anna and I met synchronously for the first time yesterday, just so you know, we'd never met before. And we're like, what were you saying, Anna?
Great conversation.
We're not experts.
No.
So, and whatever we knew yesterday is different than what we know now, and it's going to be different than what we know tomorrow. So we're all learning along with you, but we're happy to experiment with you. This is a very emotional topic, I think, when I talk to people about what are they thinking. And so let's just assume everyone has the best of intentions and cares about their students, even if we go about it different ways.
So we'll use Slido and also invite you to use the chat at different moments. And we might not be able to respond to every comment, but we will have Q&A built in at 2 different points. And we will do our best. And yeah, I think Maha mentioned that, what we know today is not what we know tomorrow. And I think there's so many emotions, both excitement, fear, and curiosity. And so I think it's helpful to just acknowledge that as we go, and to turn toward each other and figure this out.
Okay. And yeah, it's okay to feel all the different things at the same time. I think there are people who say this is not a toy, we shouldn't be playing with it, but the instinct to play is human, I think. So you can share the YouTube streaming link with anyone on Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you think people might be able to watch, especially that a lot of people haven't been able to get in. So just letting you know you can do that. So it's okay to feel however you're feeling. And we're happy that you're here with us and hope we'll all learn together. All right, so what we're hoping for today, I stopped saying agenda, I like to say hopes. We're talking about AI and writing assignments. So not everything that AI does, obviously. We'll get to know each other for 20 minutes, which I think is really important before we get into a lot of things. Anna and I will try to do some experiments in the main room. Hopefully the ChatGPT is gonna work today. You know what it's like, it sometimes gets overwhelmed, but we've also got a recording of ourselves trying it yesterday in case that doesn't work. And we also have a lot of the great experiments that some of you have already done and put on the Google Doc. And then we'll give you some time to work in breakout rooms and give you different options for things you can do in the breakout rooms so that you're, doing the thing that aligns with your priorities right this minute, which might have been different than yesterday's. And finally, when we come back, we'll do some share back and takeaways and some fun closing activities, hopefully. So let's get to know you a little bit more. All right. So this is just, let us know who you are. Are you a teacher or educator of some kind? Are you someone who supports educators like me? And you can choose more than one. If you've never used Slido before, the code is not very clear here. The code is 2159876. I'm going to put that in the chat. Just go to slido.com on any browser and it's 2159876, or you can use the QR code with your phone and let us know what you are or what kind of position you're in right now. I'm going to join too, just to make sure it's working. Do you all do that when you're facilitating? Join the Slido or the Mentimeter or whatever, just to make sure it's working. And sometimes I'm the first person who responds just to get something on the screen. I don't think I've ever said that out loud before. Okay. Oh, wow. We may have more support people than than actual people who teach. Somewhere in between. Happy to have some librarians and graduate students as well. I know we have at least one undergraduate student, but possibly hasn't. I thought my daughter might want to be here, but she's out with her friend. But she loves playing with AI. Just sharing. Does anyone here, if you have kids and the kids like playing with AI, I'd love to hear more about it. She loves asking it how it's feeling today, and she loves asking it who's Maha. So those are two of her favorite questions. Okay. So thank you all for responding to this. That's most of us here. Yeah, I selected two. You can select more than one thing, right? Okay, let's move on. Anna, do you want to read out this question?
Sure. So which AI tools have you experimented with so far? If any, totally fine if you haven't. But if you have, if you want to put those in, you can put in more than one, just one at a time. Seeing ChatGPT, but also I think we saw Perplexity AI, a few others there. Pseudo-Write, Dali, yes, is an image generator. Yeah, it's interesting. People are putting, you know, there are various forms, and the main one we're talking about is text generators like ChatGPT, where they make up sentences. But there are many forms of AI related to language, including Quillbot for paraphrasing, etc. Yeah, very cool. So ChatGPT, but also U.com, which is built on GPT-3, which is a cousin of ChatGPT. So very similar basic technology there. If you're using U.com or Jasper, Pseudo-Write.
People are also mentioning the detectors and then Google search and translate, all of that. University administration. Yeah. Turnitin as well. I don't know some of these. Oh, nobody said it. Oh, somebody said it listed. There they are.
Yeah, so this is a great point because so much of the tech that we use every day, even in our phones, involves AI and involves language models. Just, you know, auto predict, complete the next word is based on AI. But, you know, this is kind of just the next step building on that technology where we have this software that can come up with paragraphs that are original and not copied from other sources. But it builds on the same kind of tech that we're using all the time in many different places, translation software.
Someone wrote WhatsApp, and I'm not sure what the AI on WhatsApp is. Someone said Word and Office 365. I'm sure it has some AI. I don't know what I don't know what WhatsApp particularly does, but that's interesting. Someone said none. I'm scared of them. I totally understand. YouTube auto caption definitely uses that. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm sure a lot of us feel that way, and sometimes it doesn't feel safe to say that.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. So this is maybe a space to say a little bit more of that. Yeah. When you think about AI and its potential impact on education in the coming years, what words come to mind? Wow. PowerPoint does auto design. Someone's saying in the chat. And chatbots and what? Oh, wow. Sorry, Anna, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I just said exciting is in the lead. That's interesting. You never know.
Yeah. Lots of uncertainty, game changer, cynical, overwhelming, unavoidable, but also opportunity and exciting are pretty big. And opportunities, experimentation, intrigue, disruption, disruptive, job security. Yeah, I was with a labor economist today, and that was the thing about jobs and employability, outsourcing evaluation. Inevitable. One of my colleagues is insisting on using the word inevitable. Just scary. Time saving.
That's debatable, right? Depending on how we see technology. Is it a time or are we in control?
And someone wrote plagiarism. Same buzz as Wikipedia some years ago. Some people have been saying that too. Alternative assignment. All right, lack of originality. Meh. That meh is pretty big. There's enough people saying that. And there's positive and useful and worried and wary. And wow. Hybrid intelligence. I like that term. I think that will be a term. Hybrid intelligence. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. All right.
Augmented intelligence.
Yeah. Willful ignorance. Oh, and there's emojis now as well. Engaging moral panic. All right. Let's move, and transformative also. That's interesting. And oversimplify. Hypocrisy. I'm curious about that. Robot buddies. All right. Play. All right. Helpful. All right. What we're going to do next is we will send you out in breakout rooms of 3s or 4s for about 10 minutes and just talk a little bit about your emotional intellectual reaction to the latest in AI developments. If you want to share some of the play you've been doing with each other. You all okay with that? Just talk for a little bit and then come back, and I will not include the co-hosts, and the co-hosts can sit here and talk to each other. And this is the first time I've created this many breakout rooms. So I'm going to make, no, I need 30 breakouts. I need more than 30 breakouts. 40 breakouts? Yeah, 40 breakouts is good. All right. I've never done that many. All right. So 10 minutes of that. And if you need the quiet room, I will make a quiet room and allow you to move yourself there if you want. Some people sometimes are not able to speak for whatever reason, so you can move yourself there if you need to. All right, time to go. I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, so while people are in the breakout rooms, we over here in the main room, so Mia, Rissa, Anna, and Yasser are here. Rissa and Mia and Yasser, you guys introduce yourselves since Anna and I have already introduced ourselves.
This meeting is being recorded.
So I'm Mia Zamora. I'm so happy to be here. I'm currently teaching a course that is in every different iteration dedicated to new media and moments in digital culture. And so it's perfect timing that I'm launching the course this year on ChatGPT, of course. So, and I'm also co-founder of Equity Unbound. Yeah, I'm just so happy to connect with everybody here.
Go for it, Yasser.
All right, so Yasser Tamer is here. I'm still an undergraduate student at the American University in Cairo. I'm doing English and comparative literature and linguistics as minors, so that's why I'm interested in language development, assessment, and how we are driven by technology and how technology can get us into this discussion of getting us into language development. I started knowing about digital literacies, then knowing about AI. So I'm so excited also to be here and to discuss things related to the ChatGPT-3 and the AI and language models and such.
Awesome. I'm Clarissa Sorensen Unruh. I have taught chemistry for the last 20 years plus at Central New Mexico Community College. I'm also a PhD candidate at University of New Mexico in learning sciences. So I kind of am fascinated and enthralled by anything related to learning or that has a potential of impact on learning. But I'm mainly here because Maha was doing something. So I was like, sure, why not?
So just so you know, what I'm doing right now is I'm resending confirmation emails to everybody manually. So
Gotcha.
Anyone who couldn't make it should be able to make it. So you guys have a conversation while I do that.
Okay, so
Okay,
what is the
great.
prompt that we're using here?
The prompt is, how have we been feeling about the launch of ChatGPT and the impact of AI generally at this moment in time? How are we feeling about it? Is that right, Anna? Yeah. Okay.
I think I think I love that you said that. Did you want to go first, Yasser? You always have such good, insightful thoughts to have. So
yeah, I just want to jump in and say that it's not only affecting education per se, but it's just very revolutionary as to how people are using it. I've known a person who's working in the business analytical research, and they're required to get into like this whole idea of making spreadsheets and getting data and so on, and they are heavily relying on ChatGPT-3 instead of going to databases, and instead of going to searching themselves about the data they need, about what they want from specific database. They just go to ChatGPT-3 and just prompt a wording in order to get this into more faster. So a question that rolled over my mind in that, so is that ethical? So instead of hiring a person in a company and getting him to do the Excel sheet, or getting them to do the Excel sheet, so would the company allow a person to use ChatGPT and make the position called ChatGPT, like ChatGPT administrator or something? That's how I see it, because it's getting that the person is not doing anything, you know. So yeah, what do you think, guys, about that?
Oh, I think
go for it.
I would say
Sorry.
first is that ChatGPT it doesn't always get the right answers. You know, it's not geared to connect to reality yet. It's a language model. It predicts the next word. So I wouldn't trust it. We still need humans in the loop. And I think that's going to be true going forward. It's going to be about augmentation and working with AI rather than being replaced by it. But yeah, definitely a lot of questions about how the labor market is going to change based on that.
I think the word synergy comes to mind for me. You know, how can we reconceive the work we do, depending on, you know, the context for teaching, learning, writing, etc. How can we reconceive centering meaning in that context, and yet at the same time thinking synergistically, how can we partner with new tools in ways that extend our ability to think, communicate, write effectively, and import our human experience to the rest of the world in meaningful ways. So yeah, I'm just sort of embracing the notion of synergy as a way to approach the urgency of this discussion.
I wonder if we can talk about it as like synergy with wariness, because I do kind of have this wary moment at all times of where did the stuff that fed the AI come from, right? So how is it oriented? AI is, right, machine learning often. And so we have to feed it in order to feed it as statisticians to get it to understand what we want it to do. And so I'm worried about the ethical implications of what has been fed to that. I'm also a bit worried, you know, there's always this like kind of horizon feeling of like Terminator 2 coming, right? like our overlords are going to start to become more apparent. So, and maybe that's just, I love the synergy idea. I love the idea of curating and kind of putting together in different ways. Maybe just like we search in Google, you know, learning how to search in Chat GPT in different ways to get different answers, or doing it multiple times to get different answers, so that we can start putting things together is kind of an awesome idea. And I really worry about the ethical issues behind that, not in the usage of it, but how it has been platformed and how it has been generated.
Mm-hmm. Anna and I were just talking about this yesterday. I mean, one of the things is it gives a very white native speakerish tone. It has a very particular way of writing. And where will the voices of different ways of writing go? What's it been trained on? And I was asking Anna if it can do non-native white speaker voice, and you said it tries and it just stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I imagine it will get more sophisticated, but I mean, it was trained on predominantly a big chunk of the internet, Reddit. It's heavily biased because its training data includes certain things, white male, US centric, English centric. And so that's kind of how it's structured. So I think that's baked in. We think of AI as being possibly neutral, possibly more about math and statistics, and that's math washing. It's very much a political construct that's built on certain data and not other data. So I think it's good to be wary. I appreciate that. And to be questioning, and somewhere in between total terror and total excitement. And those are two sides of the same coin. There's hype in both directions, but we can be, I think, curious and critical and skeptical and still engaged, and still willing to play.
And recognize that we're giving our labor for free to this company in order to teach its AI. But it's also, as educators, I think it would be irresponsible not to play with it, because that's what our students are going to be using, and we need to understand. Hey, Esther, you going to say something?
So yeah, so taking this idea of synergy and the idea of the ethical effect. So I think it just makes the writing teacher or the English teacher, it reduces the role, because students will then depend on ChatGPT in writing their essays. And I've seen these resources where instructors are making their way like towards how to grade a paper without even knowing whether this paper is created through ChatGPT or with a human pen. And this puts another load on the teacher on how to, instead of grading the quality of writing, they're grading the quality, not only the quality, but the source of the writing. So it just, it's very weary, as Anna said.
All right, everybody is coming back. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good time in the breakout rooms or in the quiet room if you needed to go to a quiet space. All right, this is the part where we're talking about how much some of us have a crush on ChatGPT. It's a very strange addiction, I think, also. All right, so what we were planning to do now is to take some time to go look at the prompts. Anna, are you now in a space where you have a good connection, or do you want me to do it on my side? Yeah, you're in a good space. Can I hand over to you for this part? All right. Yes. So what we're going to do is, we know some of you have experimented, but we also have some really good prompts from you guys. And we'll do some live ourselves demoing how it looks and works for those who haven't had a chance to try it. In Egypt, you don't have official access to it, so some people may not have seen it at all. And then we'll give you space to play in the breakout rooms again. Go ahead, Anna. Oh, muted, Anna. You're still muted. Still muted. Are you on a Chromebook? If you're on a Chromebook, that happens sometimes. Let me try this.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear
me? Yes.
Now?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
Sorry.
Great.
It wasn't letting me. Okay. So can you see the ChatGPT here? Is it sharing? Okay, good.
Yes,
so I'm just going to enter one of the prompts that that you shared with us. This is from Naveen El-Shawa. And it's very simple. I just put in what I want it to do, press enter, and it's writing the opinion paragraph on whether online learning can replace face-to-face learning. And so, you can see that it's grammatical, it's on topic, it's sort of plausible, reasonable. And so the question is sort of now what? Now, if it can do that, and we could test if the detector, the detection software that's out there could recognize this as AI generated. And in the resource list that we've shared, there are a couple different tools. GPT-0 is one, and there's a detector made by OpenAI. They're not perfected at this point. They're very much evolving, and they make mistakes. So they will sometimes say that something is machine generated when it is not. And they will sometimes say that it is not when it is. So we certainly can't rely on them to make, calls on academic integrity. There's also data concerns about feeding that kind of, if I feed a student's paragraph to that system, there's the privacy concern about whether I have the permission to do that, to feed their data. But let's see what we can, if there's a way that we could change this kind of prompt, given that ChatGPT can produce a paragraph that's sort of plausible. Now, we can try different things. We could experiment and say, well, what if I ask it for a personal experience? So, that's certainly something we've tried. But if I say, write a new paragraph on the same topic from the perspective of a college student describing their experiences with online learning and face-to-face learning. And I'm going to ask it to give specific examples. So part of the thing I'm doing here is just, whatever its deficiency might be, I or the student could just sort of ask it to fix that, right? So give it a hint and say, do it this way, or give me more of this, or revise for this. And it's sort of going to try in most cases. So it's writing from the perspective of, as a college student, I have had a mix of both online and face-to-face learning experiences. They both have their pros and cons. Okay, so sounds pretty generic in style, right? It tends to be general. It tends to struggle with getting really specific or vivid, even when you ask it to. But see, it is giving an example here. It says, I took a statistics class online and I found it challenging to ask questions and get clarification, which resulted in a lower grade. It gives an example of a face-to-face class, a philosophy class with discussions and debates that were enlightening, and I got an A in the class. So it is putting in a few specific details. So I think if we need to be aware of that when we're looking at student submissions and thinking about, could this be ChatGPT? Some other strategies one might try that it would struggle with, if I ask it to, add to that referring to a specific point from class discussion the other day. Let's see what it does there. Looks like it's going to try. Sometimes it's
doing a good job. It sounds like one of those automatic replies from Turnitin's tech support, where it's not a human responding to you because it's not answering the question, right?
Hasn't mentioned class discussion yet here. So yeah, it hasn't responded to my last specific prompt yet. But at the end,
there it is.
Discussion, we talked about how online learning can be isolating for students. One of my classmates mentioned, so right now sometimes they call it hallucinating, but of course it's not conscious. So I wouldn't call it hallucinating, I could call it fabricating. It is, making up this past experience from class discussion. And so, I would have to remember, was that point actually raised in class discussion or not? Another thing one could try would be to incorporate multimedia images or video, ask it to comment on a video on the topic, or ask students to comment on a video or an image, or to create a video or image and then comment on them.
There was this guy, I saw this TikTok or Instagram video where someone was like, you extract the captions from a YouTube video, and you can then put the captions of the YouTube video into ChatGPT, and then it has that content, and then you can ask it to comment on it. So unless the content of the video is visual and not verbal, then that's not going to happen. So the idea is good up to an extent. Although maybe students didn't know that, now they know that because we just said it. But I think the students are following TikTok and Instagram, so they're not waiting for me to tell them. They're probably 10 steps ahead of me anyway. I think the thing that is hard is if it's really authentic data that is, we were talking just before we went online, the offline stuff that doesn't have a virtual, verbal, searchable thing, because we know there's newer things that build on ChatGPT and search later content, because ChatGPT was trained up until last year or the year before, so it doesn't have the most updated stuff. But if something's happening offline, like if they need to analyze a company or an NGO in the country, they're probably ChatGPT won't be able to do that, or their own authentic experience. It can make up experiences, but it's gonna, I think, appear as fake to us. I mean, there's a difference between it not being able to do it and then it fabricating, but the teacher being able to tell that it's fabricated.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think the point about bringing in current examples, I think the trick there is that the student can feed it text from current news, right? So we have to test giving it the context text that the student would have available. So for example, like with Maha's prompt about the equity care matrix, it didn't do very well when we didn't give it the paper that students needed to read. But when we gave it the paper, we copied, you can't copy a huge amount of text, but you can copy up to about 2,000 words into the prompt itself. So then when we did that, we found that it was able to give sort of accurate examples using the equity care matrix that Maha described in the article. It was able to integrate the information from the text of that article, even though we only pasted in about half of it, because that was all that would fit. But then, it was able to integrate that information. So the same would be with, there was an example of write a blog post about a candidate for a local election. And when you just ask them to do that, it creates something very generic. It makes something up about Alex Powell in St. Clement's, Oxford. But when I went and copied in material from his position statement on his website, then it was able to create a post that was much more specific and credible, right? So here's it says, as residents of Oxford, blah, blah, blah. And it starts talking about specific local issue, the loss of vital green spaces such as Iffley Fields, right? So that's current information that's very specific. And because I fed that to it with the prompt, it was able to still talk about that current information. And I think that's what we're seeing with the evolution of these apps, is that they are drawing on current web links. And so we have tools like Perplexity AI that will search the web live, but also generate text on top of that. So we're seeing increasingly that it can do current stuff to some extent. So a lot of these, we're like, there are a lot of things one could try, and there are a lot of ways it could get around it, or a student who knows what they're doing could get around it. But we've tried to put a few suggestions and possibilities. Here's another example from Dustin Hosseini, how did the Mongol Empire affect the Russian state? And I'm just going to bring up the Google Doc where I kind of did the experiment ahead of time. So we're not generating that live, it should be quicker. But
and kinder
you
to the
know,
people so that the thing doesn't go down. Kinder to everyone else who's trying to use ChatGPT right now.
right, true. There's that too.
We can't see it though,
Um,
so you might want to unshare your screen and then reshare the new window.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Right. The chat has a lot of interesting stuff that I will look at eventually. There's something wrong with the chat that I can't save it anymore. But it's okay, we're recording this, so the chat will be saved with the record. Oh, here it is, I found it. They've changed the place.
Yeah, I noticed that too,
Save the
Maha.
chat.
I can't
It's in the
see
three
it.
dots in a different place next to the
Oh.
emoji. And then it's with who can you can chat with, and then there's a safe chat. Okay.
You can't see chat when you share screen. That's the irritation.
Oh, no, I can do that. No, I still can do that. But
I
it's
don't know, it might be
saving the
just-
chat, but no, I can manage it. All right, here we go. Dustin is here as well. So you're gonna open the sample responses you got. Did you keep refining the prompt? Is that what you did? Yeah. Oh, you're muted again, Anna. And we can't see the document that you just opened, so you may want to stop sharing, reshare, unmute. So many steps.
Seems I have to reshare each time I open a new document.
It depends on if you're not sharing your entire desktop, that will happen.
Well, I'm trying to, but I'm on the the Zoom
Chromebook.
app crashed, so I'm doing it in my browser, so it's not working the way it's supposed to. But
sorry.
that's okay.
I can open it on my side if you want.
I think this is going to work now.
Okay, let's see.
Right. So here's the example of the Mongol Empire, and so one thing I can do is to ask it for quotes. To ask the student to quote from specific texts and specific sources, and that, you know, they could get around that. You'll see that ChatGPT came up with some actually fabricated book names. These are not real books, but they are authors who've written on the topic. Sometimes it will come up with real sources and real links. We're seeing that increasingly. But if I ask it for quotes, then the student would have to actually paste in text from the sources to get it to quote. Now, it would incorporate quotes if the student did that. So, you know, if I asked it to quote from Maha Bali's description of the equity care matrix in order to illuminate a particular example of a situation and where it falls in that paradigm, it would do that. It would be able to select a quote that was relevant and describe that quote and how it connects to a larger point. So it is able to quote, but you have to give it the text for it to do that. So I think asking for quotes and asking for specific sources, especially if you're asking for more than one source, or you're asking students to look at a longer text sort of as a whole or draw on multiple parts of that text, would just make it clunkier, more difficult, maybe not worth the student's while to try to feed ChatGPT all that information in order to generate something. Now, I think people in the chat were pointing out that elicit.org is a great AI-based research tool that will come up with real sources, right? So the student can be using something like that to pull the real sources and then tell ChatGPT about those and ask it to generate
I bet someone's going to develop the thing that does that for you, that automates even that process, right? That's very conceivable.
Sure.
That someone gets a thing that does this and then reads from that and then plugs it in here and then does all that. Can I show something that I was playing with yesterday that wasn't in those prompts, but it was me trying to figure out if the ChatGPT can do that. So I asked it to write something very specific, very weird, but specific, like write a love poem for Egyptian moms on Mother's Day using Islamic cultural examples and sayings of the Prophet and quotes from the Quran that I thought, you know, it wouldn't be very trained on my culture, right? And so I got this. It's quite nice. It has the Nile, it has the Prophet, and then it has a saying that it says is in the Quran, but it's not. It's actually a saying of the Prophet. So if someone is loosely familiar with Islamic culture, they would think this was okay. But if someone really understands Islamic culture, they would know that it's not. But it passes, and it does a really good job of doing a lot of different things. So it'll trick someone who isn't reading very closely or who doesn't know the thing very well, but it's not that good. It's also very bad at Arabic, which is really nice. It writes like a 7-year-old or something, translates from English. So far, but it's going to get better, just like the translation is getting better, right? Okay, you want to say something else, Anna?
Yeah, I just noticed on the document that the last prompt that we haven't tried yet is a good example of one that's going to be very hard for it to do.
Okay.
Add content from our course in order to improve the bioinstrumentation Wikipedia page. So it's actually saying, I'm sorry, but I'm not aware of any course you have taken. I don't have any knowledge of any specific Wikipedia page, but I can give you information about bioinstrumentation. And then it starts going off on bioinstrumentation. However, if we feed it the text from the Wikipedia page and we ask it to suggest improvements, it probably would. Now, we would have to feed it quite a bit of text from the course and continue prompting to see if it could combine the course content with the Wikipedia page to suggest an improvement. And that would be quite a complex sort of rhetorical task for the student to do. I mean, many students will be comfortable with that and great at that. You know, it will still take a certain amount of time. So I think, you know, that's one approach. And certainly the student in that process would be engaging with the course content and having to think critically about it to some extent. In order to figure out how to prompt ChatGPT. So there would be some learning happening. And of course, that's our goal, is just avoid learning loss, right? It's not to play gotcha or stop students from using new tools. It's to say, we want to make sure you're not missing out on the learning that we've designed this whole writing prompt for. So it's coming up with plenty of stuff about bioinstrumentation and not integrating the course content. You know, I imagine.
Anna,
go ahead.
We'll take the last point you're saying, and I think then we'll introduce just before we go to breakout rooms, talk about a couple of things, but I'll let you finish what you were saying first. Go ahead.
Just that sometimes there's a tension between wanting to give students adequate guidance for an assignment and giving them so much that it makes it easier for ChatGPT to then perform it. Exactly. Right? So to acknowledge that, you know, I have an answer to everything. Yeah.
So before we send you out to breakout rooms to play around a little bit with it, share experiences with trying it, I'm going to put the link to our Google Doc again at the top. We have a list of all the different AI generating writing tools that we know of, that in case you don't have access to ChatGPT, you can try out while you're in your breakout rooms, play around with different things, like making do a syllabus or answer a prompt or whatever. There are all kinds of little experiments we could do ourselves and sort of report back on them. Like sometimes, would asking this question on Google get you a better result than asking it on ChatGPT? Like, does this answer already exist? Has someone already written about this before? Like, why would you do that AI when you have Google's AI that will get you a more credible source that you can trace its credibility, right? But then the other thing that Anna and I were talking about is the detectors are not really that good, but it would be interesting to know what they do well on and what they don't do well on. And it would be interesting to crowdsource data around this, where we pick certain things and we put them through the detectors and we report back on how well they do. And so Anna and I thought perhaps if some of you are interested, we've created a forum where if you're interested in crowdsourcing some research on the detectors, on something else, if you're interested in more sessions, I'll put that link again in the chat because this chat is moving so fast. I don't think anyone's going to catch any links, but I can send it an email afterwards to everyone who registered. If you're interested in that, just open that link and join that. Before we go to breakout rooms, what we're going to do is, first of all, we have the breakout rooms for 20 minutes. And I think people will want to talk about different things. So what we're saying is rooms 1 to 20, if you want to experiment with actual AI tools, rooms 21 to 30, if you want to talk about policy at universities, 31 to 40, if you want to talk about syllabi, 41 to 49, if you just want to surprise, and 50, if you want to be in a quiet room. I don't know if you're going to remember this stuff, but you can move in around and see if you find a place where people are doing what you want to do. But before we go, we're just going to ask you if you have any burning questions that you want to share with Anna and myself, to put them on Slido. And what we'll do is, while you're in breakout rooms, we'll look at the questions that are most upvoted, and we'll try to answer them, and you'll see them in the recording afterwards. So I don't think this is the one. I know who wrote this one, but I don't think that's really a question to us. I think that was a question to ChatGPT. All right. If you have any questions, we'll give you just a couple minutes to put them here. You can also put them while you're in the breakout room, by the way. We'll see them on the Slido. So again, Slido with slido.com with the code 2159 and 876, or the QR code. Put them in here, and then you can upvote questions by other people so that we know what's going on there. And I will create the breakout rooms for now while you guys do that. Nobody has questions? You had lots of questions in when you applied to join here, when you registered. So. All right. There are no questions. Are you guys okay? You don't have any questions? Anna, you're muted. Are you seeing questions somewhere that I'm not seeing? It's possible that
bring it up yet.
Well, maybe it's just they're processing. Okay, it's overwhelming, honestly. Okay, I'm seeing questions. What courses beyond writing courses will be most affected by AI tools? That's a good question. How do people feel about using such tools as starters, sort of like Starter in baking? Yeah, that's something definitely that I hear a lot. How can we leverage AI technologies to help students increase their metacognition about their learning? I love that one. Curious, copes with language diversity. Yeah, we're saying it doesn't do very well with African-American vernacular, if that's what you're saying. Best papers for teachers on text generators, information. All right, so we will respond to these questions to the best of our ability. We will open the breakout rooms in a minute. I don't know why they're not showing here, but I can see them on my phone. So I think Anna's seeing it on her phone as well. Yeah, and some unis are blocking it. What's our take on this? All right, we'll try to respond to these. So the first 20 breakout rooms are talking about, they're actually experimenting. So you guys are experimenting with what's happening. And then rooms 21 to 30, policy discussions. Rooms 31 to 40, what do you want to write on your syllabus next semester? And 41 to 49, if you want to talk about something else and you want to surprise each other. And 50 is the quiet room. 20 minutes for the breakout rooms. In the main room, we're going to be responding to these questions, and that's going to be in the recording. So I would say go to the breakout room, have fun with people, and then we'll respond to the highest voted of these, and we can also respond to the rest of them later asynchronously if there isn't enough time. All right, so 20 minutes for the breakout rooms, and then we'll bring you back and have a wrap up. Okay, so if you finish with the breakout rooms, you want to come early, of course you can do that as well. Okay, I will see you back in 20. Here we go. Slido is now sharing what was in the breakouts. So Mia, Rissa, and Yasser are also here. So if you guys want to participate in responding to these questions also, that's great. One of them has 8 upvotes. How can we leverage AI technologies to help students increase their metacognition about their learning? I love this question so much because I think that's the way to go.
Sorry to interrupt you. How do I choose the breakout room?
So you should see a little icon, but if you want me to move you somewhere, I can do that as well.
Yeah, can you?
There should be a little breakout.
21 to 30 somewhere in that question on policies.
21 to 30, yeah?
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So Anna, Mia, would you like to answer this one?
I think I've heard a lot on asking students to reflect on the outputs and to critique the outputs. Did you want to jump in, Mia? Because that's not exactly metacognition about their own learning. They can reflect on the process of using ChatGPT and what they're understanding, what they're seeing it get maybe wrong, comparing its outputs to something they've written organically, to trace their own thinking process. I think one of the things that's really important to me is just to emphasize that we're not assigning writing to have students create a product. We're assigning writing because the process of writing is a tested way to clarify thinking and to kind of form our ideas and arrive at our own judgments and at more insight than we could have gotten otherwise without that writing process. So the friction of writing and struggling with it is important. And I think so to ask students to notice that and to value it and to reflect on it, and maybe to contrast that with what happens when you prompt GPT and you get a certain output that sounds fine, but when you look at what you're able to do on your own, revising and questioning and talking with peers about what you've written and trying to get clearer about what you meant to say, maybe that gets something that's deeper or more meaningful or more of the student's own than what would come out of ChatGPT.
I think I don't know if this has been said because a lot of people were asking me to move them to breakout rooms, but I think getting students to look at what it does and what it doesn't do and compare what they would have written with what it does write and getting them to critique it. And also think about the future of their own work and what is it, the value that they add, the wisdom that they can add, the personal experience that they can add that the AI wouldn't be able to do. I think at some point, so I was sharing this metaphor with a lot of people that my mom said it's kind of like fast food. So it comes quickly. It has less nutritional value. It may make you satisfy your hunger and you may really enjoy it, but it's not actually good for you. And then you don't go through the experience of cooking it and the joy of that. And eventually you may realize that that's not the best thing for you. But Graham, go ahead. Remember to unmute.
Yeah, just a leaping off point as well in terms of the student and the self-reflection. And it reminded me when you were talking about the example you gave like 10 minutes ago about, what was it, writing about an Arabic text in whatever. One of the things that's come up quite a bit in our institution in terms of our discussions, because we're actually seeing academic integrity violations using AI, and that's a whole different thing, is discussing with students the question about ethics, morality, and appropriation. Namely, just because I, as a cisgendered middle-class white male, can use ChatGPT to write rap lyrics in the voice of a Black youth growing up in Compton, probably means I shouldn't, right? And so it's this question about, I mean, we're talking about, at least in my institution, I'm in Canada, and one of the things we're looking at is, as a result of the Indigenous Truth and Reconciliation Commission, has to do with revisiting, course development in terms of recognizing that, historically speaking, we have not developed our courses with any sort of attention to Indigenous culture, Indigenous beliefs, at all. And so we're revisiting, questions about indigeneity. And so there's this weird contrast, because on the one hand, we're being attuned to this as a result of various socio-political historical changes. And on the other hand, we're having fun using ChatGPT to write in the style of, Sri Dimaline, an Indigenous author. And there's no questions about or discussions around like the ethics and morality about using AI to pass, if you will. Yeah. And like, that's a really fundamentally, it seems to me, important thing that we need to be talking to students about is yes, we can talk about, the ability to use this to enhance writing or all these different kinds of questions. But there's also this really fundamental question about ethics and morality and appropriation of, depending on where you are and who you're talking about, cultures that have already experienced centuries of appropriation
and exploitation
by various colonial powers. And so that seems to me, I think, a conversation that's not, I haven't seen happening in all these think pieces I'm reading online about ChatGPT. No one seems to be really addressing this question, again, of folks like me, white folks, who have historically been appropriating cultural systems, now using AI to do it. And it's, again, I mean, Tom Waits had that piece, I don't know if you saw it, about a week ago. A fan sent Tom Waits lyrics of a song that the AI generated in the style of Tom Waits. And he went ballistic, rightfully so, about this exact question. And so I think that's something that really, if we're going to be bringing ChatGPT into the classroom in pedagogical lessons, that needs to be a
we
point
need to
that
discuss
really
all of that. What is okay and what is not, and what can be actually harmful. There's a difference between play and then the potential harm that can happen from all of that. There was someone else who was talking to me about Midjourney, which is a visual AI, and how it actually builds on the work of artists who never gave permission for their art to be used, and then also how that can affect their future as well. And so they're not, of course, marginalized groups in the ways of, indigenous people and so on, but they're still people whose work has been used, and then now you can create work in the same vein as their work without their permission, without them ever having said that this is okay. Versus, for example, they say the music AI only uses public domain music to recreate music. It doesn't have that kind of issue. Does anyone else want to say anything else in terms of the metacognition piece? And also, like, one of the things that I said on Twitter and that a lot of people are saying right now is how much permission do we give students to use AI, and then ask them to disclose and be transparent about how the AI has helped them, versus trying to ban it or reduce it or sort of stop it altogether, but more in terms of, I think someone put a link to what you were talking about. Or maybe someone similar. No, someone similar.
Daniela just put in the link to the Nick Cave incident, which is somewhat similar to what was described by Graham when it comes to the Tom Waits scenario. But I think I just want to throw out a few things that are kind of floating in my brain as I'm approaching this issue and designing a course around it as well. So, and that is that I think, Graham, you're highlighting of the question of authenticity, I think is really a critical one when it comes to thinking about the difference between machine learning and intention, and the lack of intention in machine learning, because it's all about patterns, right? And the redistribution of language in patterned packets. So writing is so much about discovery and invention, that moment when we're thinking, and the thinking is an active engagement. And we are seeking our own intention in terms of our thoughts. The beauty of writing is in that sort of zone of thinking. And that's the human nature of writing. And by the way, that's the subtitle of my course, is the human nature of writing, because we're really trying to think deeply about what that is in the face of a world that's shifting because of machine learning at scale. But I just want to say that I think that in terms of the metacognition and technology, I'm right now trying to position the students to be like co-writers with the machines, and try to pinpoint or think about the moment when the machine sort of co-ops or takes over. Or can ChatGPT be a kind of co-drafter or early writing partner? But do we notice when it's going in a direction beyond or different than what we intend? And what does that do in terms of us being mindful and aware, and cast light on the way thinking works in writing process? All of these questions are things I'm hoping to play around with my students. I think it's really interesting. And then one last comment I want to throw out is I was really excited by Susan's, kind of throwing in a comment about, has ChatGPT been able to reproduced AAVE, African American vernacular English, in a way that's meaningful, or, you know, like the kind of politics of language that comes up in these issues, which is like kind of connected, Graham, to what you're saying a lot. And I think that would be a very interesting integration point for thinking about the tension of like race and identity and machine learning in ways that matter, and drawing attention to the way data and data sets are indeed a political tract. So, if you will, like, meaning that like there is embedded strains of power in language that already exist, and when they become the basis for pattern making, they will reproduce inequity in important and problematic ways. So the students need to like work through that. So thinking about how Chat GPT might or might not be able to produce lyrics effectively is very interesting as well. So anyway, I just threw out a whole bunch of like brain vomit. Sorry about that.
So Anna wants to tackle that second question, the second most popular question, which is how do people feel about using such tools as starters, sort of like starter dough in baking? And I know there are a couple of hands raised, but I'll let Anna tackle this question first.
Yeah. I just wanted to build on what Mia said so beautifully. I mean, we can have them use it as a place to start, but we also want them to notice what's lost when they do that. And we want to notice that, because, you know, its outputs are not necessarily a good starting place. They're not necessarily good models. And even if they are decent, and we want them to critique them, you know, that's a certain path that they're headed down, that takes them away from where they might have started on their own. So I've kind of, you know, been tempted to do that and then moved away from it myself in my teaching for the moment. And, you know, the place where I do use it is with elicit.org and sort of the research process and the process of summarizing academic papers, because it's great to have a starting point summary for that. And then you can still read part of the paper and try to judge whether the summary is right or not. And then not too much seems to be lost that way to me. But I think there is a great temptation to say, let's just start with what it gives us. And we can get so much further with that. But are we really getting further? And are the students really, is that the best model? Because anytime they're reading ChatGPT text, that's time that they could be reading human written text, and they could be critiquing human written text that we give them. So there's an opportunity cost that I think we should keep noticing and remembering.
Yeah. What are we not doing when we're doing this? And what are we losing when we start this way versus another way? That's a good point. And yes, you wanted to say something, and then we'll talk about what other courses beyond writing courses will be most affected by AI.
Yeah, I'll just conclude the thought here by reflecting on the point about metacognition, how students might, and how I as a student position myself within a writing course that requires drafting and developing a piece of writing effectively. So I see, in my opinion, and I'm not an expert, I don't claim to be one even, but I say that if we can draft, and maybe we can, this can get us started about this thought. If we can draft more and get students to submit a product that involves ChatGPT-3 cooperation or something like a brainstorm by using ChatGPT-3, and then their faculty evaluates what the student done with ChatGPT-3, then a new movement with the idea that students can take this ChatGPT-3 generated text and start reusing it, but now with their idea that they are now writing themselves, using their mind and developing and rewriting and redrafting. Would this be a better solution for the problem? That's how I think metacognition might be like somehow involved and somehow improved.
You know, I said there's actually a question in the chat that reminds me of a conversation we were having, I think yesterday or the day before. It's like, is learning how to use AI an emerging skill? And you were sort of talking about the good student will learn how to use the AI more effectively, and the one who isn't won't be very successful in using it.
Yeah, like the idea of equality, that if people would have access to the internet and the computer, and even the payment scale here in Egypt, for example, the payment rates of paying for a VPN in order to access it. And people, I imagine people even in the more suffering countries, in Africa, people do not have the rural areas that has no access to internet and has no access to. So I see it in an equality sense, that people are not even aware of not only literacy but equality. And I love the point of the AVA point about the African American vernacular. Yeah, it's very, I don't know about that, and I have to research it, but it's also touching and thoughtful.
Yeah. So folks are about to come back from breakout rooms, and of course none of these questions are easy to answer in like a few minutes, but what courses beyond writing courses will be most affected by AI tools? I think every discipline will discover that probably there are elements of what they do that's going to be very affected by AI. I know that ChatGPT does very well in computer code, for example. There are a lot of visual AIs that are going to affect people who are in like areas like art and graphic design. There's a math AI tool that solves math problems. So there's all that kind of thing going on. I think everyone needs to stop and think of, what am I teaching? And also this other element. Yes, I will save the chat. Someone's asking, and I'm recording, so that's going to be saved anyway with the Zoom cloud, but I'm going to save the chat and send it to you guys as well.
I'm curious about philosophy and literature as well.
Of course, very much. They're writing, they're courses with heavy writing components, right?
But not necessarily the assessment. That I'm curious about how they'll position the discussion, if they are discussing Plato or if they are discussing Shakespeare. So how ChatGPT,
I mean, the very old stuff the ChatGPT has access to, actually, because it's public domain, so it's probably been trained on Shakespeare. I think it may not be trained on more modern stuff that is copyrighted. But all of that old stuff, I'm pretty sure that I could ask it to rewrite Othello, and I haven't done this, but I'm pretty sure I can ask it to rewrite Othello as a 10-minute play in regular language, and I'm pretty sure it can do that. We can try. Let's try it later. But so there's a question about how do we prepare students for the world where these AI tools will be around them every day. Does anyone want to tackle that one? And I think we have no idea, but probably we will find out soon. Does anyone have thoughts on this one? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the skills that I need to use ChatGPT are the skills that I've learned by working for many years without it. So I'm a little bit skeptical that we have to immediately start training them with the tool, and that there are tips and tricks that they won't know. I feel like, sort of the critical thinking that they need is they need practice without the tool in order to use the tool effectively and to see where it's doing things wrong.
Just like a calculator.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, definitely we're going to need to teach students about this as we teach them digital literacy, as we teach them how to use a search engine. That's going to become part of what we do and part of the conversations we have with them. And we need to develop materials quickly, hopefully that can be shared and adapted for that, so that we can begin to integrate that into our classes. Because if they're using it anyway, we need to be able to talk about what it gets wrong and what it's based on. And it's a statistical model. It's not sentient, and it doesn't have access to real world data. It doesn't have some ground truth to it. It's just predicting the next word. What would the humans say next is kind of the big question that it's answering over and over again.
All right. It's time to close the breakout rooms, actually. And there's a lot of very interesting stuff happening in the chat. I will save the chat and send it to people, inshallah. Oh, wow. That was a lot. Like, I think we could write a blog post in response to every one of these questions at this point. I'm not sure about that question about best papers for teachers on text generators. I don't know what they're asking about here. Do you understand what that was about? I'm not sure. But definitely, I think it's definitely worth talking to students about the ethical and equity issues around design, development, and use of these tools, including what I've been hearing recently, that there are human, what they call mechanical Turks in Kenya who are underpaid and being used to make sure that the text is clean and not offensive and things like that. So there's a lot of issues here, and we put a link in the document to Autumn Keynes' article about a lot of the ethical issues. I hope you guys had a good time in the breakout rooms and managed to have a good discussion around whatever it was you were doing. It's going to be difficult to share everything out. But does anyone have something really interesting that happened in the breakout room that you'd like to share back with all of us?
Okay, I've just asked what is the difference between ChatGPT and the contract assignment, which is
paying someone to do your work.
It's a little bit easier, but it's the same. You go to someone and pay him money to do the assignment, and this is with the computer. It's a little bit easier and faster and saving money as well.
Yeah, probably not as good though. Hopefully, if your assignment is good enough, should be hard for the ChatGPT to do a great job. All right. Any other burning things from the breakout rooms? We want to try something else with you guys that might be fun. It's something called Question Jam, which is a way for all of us to ask each other questions and respond to each other. Are you guys up for another experiment? Do you have energy for this? Yeah. All right. So if you were born January to June, use my link. And then if you were born July to December, use the link that Anna Mills is going to give you. So hang on a second. And I know someone wants to speak. Naveen, do you want to say something real quick before we start doing this?
Oh. Hello, everyone.
Go ahead, Naveen.
Yeah,
Hi.
sure. Nice to see you. Actually, I'd like to show the video, but it seems like my mobile is, I'm actually out, so pardon me for that.
No problem.
But my point was about giving feedback. I used it last week because I was overwhelmed by checking students' papers, and I use it in giving feedback, and it worked. Like I can say like 80 to sometimes 100% accuracy. So this is something I feel is great, helping in giving feedback and checking. But you have to be so specific. I mean, you write the question, you put your criteria, specific points, and then you can ask ChatGPT to check out of 5 or out of 10. And of course, you check again. I mean, you read and go through the paper, but at least you feel like you give it to another, let's say, one to check. I mean, you share with another one. When you are not sure to decide what mark to put, then it really helps. That's my point. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Naveen. So Anna has shared info for hers. This takes about 50 players in each one. And if you want to use mine, if you're January to June, this is the info to join my question jam. And basically what should happen is that as soon as you guys start joining, it's not accepting new players. What already? Oh, start jam now. Sorry, I just started the jam. Oh, no, I shouldn't have done that. No. All right, let's start over. I'm going to start over. I'm going to end this. If it doesn't work, it's fine. It's not a big deal. You don't have to do it every single time. Anna, is yours working?
It's asking to create an account.
Shouldn't do that.
Shouldn't.
Maybe question jam is down.
Well, when I typed in the code, it was saying that that's for Anna's. It says that it's not accepting new players.
Okay.
Let's try this one. How about this one? This is a new one. I made a new one with a QR code. Let's see what happens when we put the QR code. New QR code.
So mine should be open if you use the new code, UEABHI, and then you go to questionjam.it and enter that code.
And this one looks like it's working as well, and I'll put the code as well here. I had to use all caps, so that's what was happening then. All right, here's the other one. So as soon as we run this, basically what happens is that in 7 minutes, you get a chance to ask questions and send them to one other person who's playing, and then time for that person to respond, and then you can ask another question. And what I like about this is that you get an answer to your question by someone, not by all of us, but that means that everyone gets to ask their question and get their question answered, and it's all within 7 minutes or so. And so we'll take the first 100 people who join these two.
Yeah, so I've got a 13 in mind. I'll wait for 50 and then I'll start it. I think once I start it, people can't join.
Yes, exactly. Once you start, people can't join anymore.
I'll put the code in the chat again for mine.
Yeah, someone else was doing that as well. Awesome. I got 37. How many you got, Anna? You started earlier.
Yeah, 20.
Okay. What I want to do is I want to actually start one in parallel here on a incognito window. So that I can show people who are watching what's going on. So people who can't join, but they're watching us. I want to have that going. So I'm sorry, I'm going to take up a space of a participant. This is how it looks like.
Shall I just start going at 25?
If you like. Mine is at 45, so that's almost the limit. So I'm going to start as well.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to show my screen as I play. There's going to be 7 minutes of playing this. All right. I'm just saying, will you allow students to use AI this semester? Then it's completely or something else. And that's my question when I ask the question. I'm sorry, I'm talking out loud just for people who are watching and if anyone's not able. So I'm going to find an available participant. I'm really flexible, but I like people who use lowercase for their names. So that's the person I'm asking. And until someone answers me or asks me a question, I can ask more questions. So I'm just asking, what's your biggest concern right now? And I'll just pick someone later in the alphabet because I bet people forget to ask them. Eventually, when someone asks me a question, that should appear for me. I'm asking, how would you integrate AI? By the way, if you can't think of questions, that's okay. You can slow down, or you can repeat a question that you've already asked before. Oh, I got a question. Someone's asking me, what do you think about students declaring their use of AI tools? I tweeted this idea already.
I don't think mine is working.
Are you participant as well? Or are you just the recipient? Or are you just the admin?
I thought I was just admin, but
yeah, so you
I guess I need to be a participant as well.
Yeah, you need to be a participant to do what I'm doing right now.
Okay, I'll try to do that. I don't think it'll let me join now.
Hey, I get to see an answer to one of my questions. I like seeing this. He's concerned about the negative press around AI. Okay. Oh, I have a new question. Are students at a disadvantage by not knowing about this tool? Definitely. Should we be the ones to tell them?
Are you playing, Maha? Are you playing?
Yeah, I am. I'm a player. Yeah.
We can't see you. I mean, I can't see anything happening on the screen.
But on your phone, if you connect it with your phone, then you
You're
should be able
sharing.
to ask questions. I'm sharing my screen as a player right now.
No, you're not. You're sharing your screen as the host. That's what
Okay.
we're
Damn,
seeing.
you can't see it. I see. It's a different window. It's
Thank
an
you.
incognito window. Sorry.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's good that I was saying it out loud. So you kind of knew what I was doing. All right, answer the next question.
Exactly.
So now you can see it. Thank you. All right, I didn't realize. What's my favorite AI tool? So it used to be something else, but yesterday I got onto ChatGPT, so that's definitely my favorite. And I also like Auto Draw for drawing icons. And I got another question. Oh, I got an answer to my question. Oh no, is it? I don't know what it is. Oh, his question is actually his answer is a question. Do you think the pedagogy of teaching going to change and also able to cope? Well, that's a question, and it's not a question. So, oh, now it's time for me to ask more questions. I'm not sure if the person who gets it is a teacher. I'm asking, how do you think assessment will change this semester? And I'm gonna have no idea who this is, but oh, I got a question. So what would you tell a student who asked you about AI content creation tools? Okay. I'm getting a lot of questions because I'm the facilitator, right? Does everybody get questions? Would it be plausible to get the AI to create a paper scenario with mistakes? Yeah, for the students to correct. Yes, I bet you can do that. Try it. I think any questions you have about whether it's possible, I think you should plug it into an AI and try it.
But it doesn't know itself. That's the weird thing. People always ask ChatGPT to like talk about itself. It's not an entity. It's just predicting words. It doesn't have self-knowledge or recommendations, you know. It's just statistics.
So Benjamin, I would use it as a scenario and describe why they think that is or is not the best option in the group. To get them to think about the topic and discuss it. I like that, Benjamin. Ask a question. I'm getting tired. It's exhausting, this game. What time is it where you are? Because I'm too tired to ask about AI at this point. I've been talking about AI for like a week nonstop. I need a break. We've got another question. Can you share all the links given on the chat history? Yes, I will share the entire chat. I actually have my Zoom chat automatically save as soon as I finish. And now they've just changed the place to save chat, but I just saved it right now again. So keep jamming. I don't want to ask AI questions anymore. I'm just asking random questions. 2:30 p.m. 8:30 p.m. Yeah, I agree. CF should be more authentic. That's what I would do with assignments also. Questions about it. What should our next workshop focus on? Elena's answering my question. With it to make students find out what the pros and cons are. Yeah, why I can't be the main road to academic knowledge and academic integrity, but also to investigate issues of data ethics. Oh, that's really deep. All right, it's done on my side. Is yours done as well, Anna? I can send you the results, but also let me unshare and reshare because it should give me a word cloud. I just need to share my screen again so you can see it.
Mine did not work, but I'm happy to stay on and chat and answer questions.
Yeah, sure.
Email me
So
the
I got
question.
this. AI is the main thing that people said, and students and tools and ChatGPT. I'm glad the students was a big one. Writing, excited, learning assignment. And you can actually go over each one and it'll tell you what the questions were and the answers to them. So it's really interesting. It tells you, what were they talking about. But all right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. There is half of us left, but that's normal in a 1.5 hour. I was telling Anna, people would leave after the first hour just because people generally tend to be available for 1 hour, not for more than that. Anna, what did we have? I have a problem opening my slides again. I would like people to tell us their key takeaways before leaving and what they want next, but.
We asked for feedback via chat. What's the most useful thing you learned today? Was our next slide.
Yeah.
And then after that, we were just going to invite people to join the crowdsourced research on detectors.
Can you put that link again? Can someone put that link again? My computer is tired. It's doing weird stuff. Yeah, it won't. It just hung up on a couple of places. All right. Yes, here's the bit.ly/AI crowd research. Learn we're all confused. Have to start playing and using. Yes, you should. Please play with it. I think you need to know what it can do so that you know what it is when your students do it and ask you about it. We will share the slide. Can someone share the slides again? Share the Google Doc again. I will share the chat by email. I will share the link to this recording that's on YouTube. I don't know if I was trying to tell people to put the YouTube link on Twitter for people to watch. I'm not sure if anyone did that, but I hope someone did. Gave you confidence to open up the dialogue. Oh, I'm so glad, Katie. And start reflecting together. That's great. And feel free to use any part of this recording with people in your institution and with your students, whatever helps. Just as long as nothing can be used against me, I'm okay with it. Because tomorrow I might change my mind about everything I said today. That we're not alone. I think the main thing is, I think a lot of people signed up for this session because we wanted to know that we're not alone, right? Yeah.
The last thing we had in the slides was, what would you like future equity unbound workshops to focus on this topic? So if you've still got something burning or you have ideas for the next session, you could put that in the chat as well.
If anybody sent me a private message, I will look at it later when I look at the chat again.
Yeah, there's a question from Angie about, would you first explore by yourself and then bring AI to your students, or do it together with them? I would explore first on my own, because ideally, if we want to guide them and we want to have some idea of what this is and what it isn't, and how much to trust it, and where it's coming from, it's also going to be more efficient if we try it out ahead of time and design an experience. And then we might still want to prompt it live for something if we've tried that before, and it'll give a slightly different response since it will generate different responses when you try something multiple times. But yeah, I think prepping is going to be important, and we need more support as educators to learn about this and to develop materials. So I think that's definitely the direction that we need to go.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying in the chat, your students have probably already tried it, so it's not like you're gonna tell them something they don't know. My kid is 11, and she says everybody in her school knows about Clobot already. They've been using some kind of AI, if not ChatGPT per se.
I have a textbook. Somebody asked about it, so I'll put the link in the chat for that. Howargumentswork.org is my textbook. And I'm hoping to add stuff about AI writing assistants to that, and develop materials on that. And I'm very, very open to collaboration.
We have just gone over time, so I am going to stop the recording. Thank you all so much for being with us. I'll stay 5 more minutes.